So are you going to do it or not? I want to do it, but what if I fail? Why are you worried so much about failure? I guess it's more about what I will lose. Will you lose more if you take action than if you don't? I don't know. I think it will be best if you take action and find out. But I don't think I'm ready yet. I can do some more research. And when do you think you will be ready? I don't know. Then start before you feel ready. How often does it happen? We have an idea, we get curious, we find more about it, and then nothing happens. Fear of failure and perfectionism are the most common reasons people don't take any action. We fantasize about the outcomes, but we never really do anything beyond that. So, how do we really overcome them? Let me show you my approach to get past these roadblocks and take action. The first issue, paralysis by analysis. For most of us, the very first step is to start by researching. Sounds logical. But as time goes by, we try to account for every possible scenario because we want to be perfect. We want to make sure that we are ready before we start. But then we start to confuse our research with actual work. We feel that as long as we are researching, we are making progress. In reality, nothing happens. Look, the information is abundant, but the willingness to do something with it is a major challenge. The second issue for many of us is the fear of failure, and it's a bit tricky. You don't want to ignore your gut feeling, but it's better to explain it. So every time I'm getting this feeling, I get into self-inquiry mode. If you drive on a busy street, will you wait till all lights turning green? No. Why not? Because that's unlikely. Do you have any control over it? No. Then stop being perfectionist. Just get on and do it. Yeah, look, that's easy for you to say, but what if? What if what? What will others say? Look, others don't know more about you than you do. Why bother? You have a point. Even if you fail, you will learn something. Just don't repeat the mistake. Learn from it, move on. But that could take forever. Well, it's better than sitting ducks. You're not going anywhere by doing nothing. I guess you're right. I am. I should do it. You should. I will do it. That's more like it. You see, we rarely applaud people for avoiding failures, but we almost always applaud people who deal with them with courage and move on. A lot depends on how you think about failure. Do you see failure as an end to the world, or do you treat it as an opportunity to learn and to improve? This choice makes a big difference. If we take action because we want to achieve something, it is best achieved with conviction. But we don't get a conviction out of nothing. I used to get overwhelmed because I focused too much on the goal. But the goal doesn't happen by itself. We must follow a process to get to that. For example, we cannot keep thinking of a flower if we want to grow one. Instead, we must focus on seeds, soil, pot, water, sunlight, and so on. The Hindu monk Swami Vivekananda once said that one of the greatest lessons I have learned in my life is to pay as much attention to the means of the work as to its end. The goal is so much more enchanting, so much more alluring, and so much bigger in our mental horizon that we lose sight of the details altogether. So when we follow the process, taking action becomes easier and the goal becomes more reachable. One of my colleagues in HSBC often used to remind me that we should be careful of who we listen to. Especially now, it is important to be careful of who we follow on social media and who we listen to. But unfortunately, there is so much well-meaning but bad advice available that it is becoming an issue and one of the main causes of inaction. You see, people give you advice from their experience and their perspectives. Experience is fine, but perspective can become a problem. And it's a problem because everyone's situation is different. Our circumstances are different. So, what works for them may not exactly work for you. Whatever was best for them might be irrelevant for you. So, whether it is paid or unpaid, from the internet or in person, I always take every piece of advice with a pinch of salt. Do you know that a lot can be told about you by looking at who you hang out with? It is because our environment, our friends, have a massive influence on how we behave. If we hang out with high performing individuals and action takers, we are more inclined to become action takers. And if we hang out with people who always give excuses, then we start to reflect same behavior. If our friend circle or community is not aspirational, our ability to take action significantly decreases, which is why I constantly assess my surrounding for any such negative influences and adjust accordingly. A much better option is to be part of a community with similar goals and aspirations. Then you will see a drastic change in your performance. We often hear people talking about failing fast, but that doesn't mean we are actively promoting failure. We are not looking to fail at things intentionally. But the fact is, we are not perfect. Our ideas, our actions always would have some imperfection and room for improvement. So, the key here is to get those imperfections out of our head and lay them bare open for improvements. I came across this interview with Ed Sheeran. He's got an interesting perspective to this.
And literally, like, I watched him and was like, I want to do that one day, and wrote a million songs, did a million gigs, and have ended up kind of doing a similar thing. But it literally came from writing a song a day or 2 songs a day or 5 songs a day and just getting all these songs out of me, doing a million gigs, sometimes 3 gigs a day. Sometimes we did 6 gigs a day one year at Glastonbury. But I think you view it as a dirty tap. When you switch a dirty tap on, it's going to flow shit water out for a substantial amount of time, and then clean water is going to start flowing, and now and then you'll get a bit of shit, but as long as it gets out of you, it's fine. So with songs, you're going to write shit songs at the beginning. My songs were terrible. My raps were terrible. Like, I've listened to it the other day, it's awful. But I got it out of me, and the more and more you write, the more and more you experience, and then you start flowing clean water, and songs start getting better and better and better. And when you're on a good streak, you're writing good songs, now and then you're going to write a shit song, and that song is out of you, and you can move on. And it's the same with gigs. Like, you will always play bad gigs at the beginning. That's what you need to do. And then the more gigs you do, the better you'll get. Now and then you'll have a shit gig, but that's all right because you've got it out.
The fail fast approach is essentially the same, getting imperfections out of our system and making way for the better ones. When we resist failures, we are stopping this wastewater from coming out. So we never get past that to see positive outcomes. Once I learned to be prolific, it became easier for me to take action. So now I follow a simple rule. Whenever I need to decide between taking action and doing nothing, I prefer to take action, unless there are irreversible consequences. But for taking action, my first step is not to research but to act. And this is particularly interesting and counterintuitive because our tendency is to research first and then act. But when we start with research first, our scope becomes far too wide. However, if we start with action first, our research depends on what is not working, and that makes it more directional, more effective. It helps in focusing on findings that matter instead of trying to understand everything. So if you were to take just one learning from this video, take this one. First, whenever you have a choice between doing something and doing nothing, select do something as the default option. And secondly, act first, even before starting your research. Everyone wants things to happen, but only a few do the work to make them happen. And I feel we need to become better at taking meaningful actions. There is a famous quote by Augustine Mandino. He says, "Never has there been a map, however carefully executed to the detail and scale, which carried its owner over even 1 inch of a ground. I will act now." So far, in my experience, taking consistent action always results in nonlinear and exponential outcomes. What it means is that your efforts will stack up over time, and what seemed to be slow in the beginning will start ramping up as you progress. As long as you follow the right process, your actions will yield positive results. Now, I often get asked about how to apply the fail fast approach in reality, and more importantly, how to learn experimentation. The art of experimentation is something I will cover in another video, but until then, take action. Start before you feel ready.